Welcome, science friends, to Intro to Classical Genetics. When you look at yourself, you might see some different traits. Your hair color, your eye color, your skin color, how tall you are, any assigned sex at birth, male versus female. Lots and lots of different things about the way you look are traits. So traits are those characteristics that vary between individuals. You're not very likely to look exactly like somebody unless you're an identical twin. Some really important questions are, what are some examples of traits? Where did they come from? Do you look like one of your parents, a combination of both, or do you not look like your parents at all? Or do you see some traits that seem to skip a generation, so to speak? Let's start with that first question. What causes a trait and why do they vary? And it comes down to our genes. So just like we learned in the previous unit, genes are pieces or segments of DNA that code for a certain protein which will give us a trait. DNA is stored in the nuclei of our cells, and they have that code for different traits. We gotta remember that central dogma of biology. DNA makes RNA, and RNA makes proteins. So those proteins are what give us traits. A new vocab word coming your way, alleles are different forms of a gene. So to kind of put it all together, a gene determines a trait, and that trait has different forms called alleles. So we could be talking about any of your traits. It could be height, it could be something like hair color. So here we see 3 different alleles of hair color. We see red hair, we see brown hair, and we see yellow or blonde hair. These are all different forms of a trait. So these are alleles of different traits, hair color, and that trait is determined by the gene on the DNA. So what happens when we combine genes? Every person has something called a gamete or a sex cell, and gametes vary depending on your sex assigned at birth. So biological females have eggs and biological males have sperm. And when those gametes combine during the process of fertilization, we create something called a zygote. So we have lots of new vocab. A gamete, again, is an egg or sperm depending on your sex assigned at birth. So for example, we get one allele from mom and one allele from dad. And when we get the fertilization, we create a zygote that takes one from each of our parents. More new vocab. This unit is very vocab heavy. There are genetic factors and physical factors. We're going to be looking at both. Now, phenotypes are descriptions of an expressed trait. Phenotypes are the physical representation. So that would be the color or the size of something. Genotypes are the genetic factor. So we can kind of see that, yes, pheno and physical, genetic and geno, they start with those same first letters and first sounds. When we're looking at genetics, we're going to be using letters to represent different alleles. So in this example, we're going to look at phenotypes and genotypes and how we might represent them as we're learning about them. Using eye color as an example, a phenotype would be the color of the eyes. Brown, blue, green, hazel, there's lots of different alleles for the phenotype of eye color. Genotypes are how we will describe or express those alleles. So we have 2 alleles for each trait, one from mom and one from dad. So we're going to have 2 letters to represent each of those alleles that we get from our parents. So in this case, we're going to look at brown eyes and blue eyes as our 2 possible alleles. We're going to represent them with letters. For brown eyes, we have a capital B and a capital B, meaning each parent is giving a capital B. We also have this middle brown eyes, which is a capital B and little b, a lowercase b. And again, we get 1 from each parent. So one parent is giving the capital B and one is giving the little b. And the blue eyes, again, 2 letters, 1 from each parent. We have a little b and a little b. But what's up with the capitalization? How come some are big and some are small? Why are some uppercase, some are lowercase? Well, this has to do with dominance, more vocab. A gene can be dominant or recessive. Dominant genes are always expressed if they are present. We differentiate between dominant and recessive alleles based on the size of the letter. If it's a capital letter, that means it's dominant. If we see a capital letter, that trait will be expressed. Recessive genes are expressed only when the dominant gene is not there. So no capital letters, only little lowercase letters. Then that's a recessive trait that's being expressed because there's no big letters around. More vocab. When alleles are the same, so both big or both small, we call them homozygous. Homo means same. Zygous is representing the zygote, or those two alleles together, one from mom, one from dad. We need two letters to represent the zygote. One letter from mom, one letter from dad. So if we see two letters that are the same, both big or both little, we call that homozygous. Homo meaning same, zygous meaning zygote. So we have one zygote with the same type of letter in their genotype. When the alleles are different, we call them heterozygous. So hetero means different, and again, zygous means zygote. So we have a zygote, something with an allele from mom and allele from dad, and they're different sizes. So one is big, one is little. Here we go. I'm rounding up all of this new vocab. Genes are segments of DNA that determine a trait, so we can find that on DNA and chromosomes. Alleles are different forms of a gene. So if we're talking about eye color as a trait, alleles are the different colors of eyes. Brown, blue, green, hazel, lots of different ones. The genotype is the genetic makeup of a trait. That's where we see those two letters. One from mom, one from dad. They can be big, they can be little, they can be a mix. Phenotype is the physical characteristic that's being expressed. So what color is that eye? Is it brown? Is it blue? Is it green? Is it hazel? What's going on? What's the physical representation or expression of that trait? Dominant means that there's an allele that is big and it will always be expressed when present. So in this example, a capital B. Recessive is a gene that's only expressed when there's no dominant allele present. So only lowercase little letters. Homozygous means both of the alleles are the same, either both big or both little. Heterozygous means the alleles are different, one big, one little. Adding a little bit extra here, homozygous dominant means that it's homozygous, so both alleles are the same, and both of those alleles are big or capitalized because they are dominant. Homozygous recessive means both alleles are the same, but instead of both of them being dominant, both are recessive, so both are little lowercase letters. That was Intro to Classical Genetics. I hope it helped.